The
Senator from Oklahoma.
Madam President, I'd like to make a unanimous consent request that Lieutenant Colonel Anthony McCarty, he's a defense fellow in my office, be granted floor privileges for the remainder of this year.
Without objection.
And Madam President, I, along with Senator Hatch, we have a concern that we want to share with this body, and one of the reasons I do is because I had planned to go ahead and introduce the bill having to do with the AUMF. In fact, I actually had introduced it a year ago, but I understand now that we're coming into an agreement, and we stand together, Senator Hatch and I, to speak about the need for the new AUMF authorization for the use of military force against the terrorist organization that is known as the ISIS or as ISIL or whatever you want to call it, in order to answer any legal question as to the authority the President has to defend the American people and demonstrate our commitment to the global coalition in defeating this radical Islamic organizations. Now, I've always contended that the President had this authority anyway. And in fact, I can remember a year ago he said that he did. And I now understand the President will be sending to Congress his own version of an AUMF this week, and I'll read it with interest. Over the past 6 months, ISIS, or ISIL, has expanded its control in Iraq and Syria. They continue to recruit followers worldwide. We saw just the other day what happened when we had the President of, or the King of Jordan here. And we had the opportunity to be with him when he got the very sad news of what had happened to his F-16 pilot being burned alive. I happened to be with him in Syria just a month before that. I'm talking about with the King of Jordan. And we know firsthand what is going on. So it's my hope that the President's proposed AUMF will include all the authorities needed to execute a strategy to stop ISIS, and that the President provides Congress with that strategy as part of any approval for an AUMF. The President's proposed AUMF should not contain restrictions on U.S. forces or time or geographic limitations. An AUMF should authorize the use of all necessary appropriate force anywhere where ISIS or any successor organization is operating until we accomplish that strategy. And at his State of the Union speech last month, President Obama specifically said, and I'm quoting now, he said, "I call on this Congress to show the world that we are united in this mission by passing a resolution to authorize the use of force against ISIL. We need that authority." Now, that was a quote from his State of the Union message. Quite frankly, he had already stated before that he had that authority, but I'm not going to argue about that. Let's just make sure and eliminate all doubts. Subsequent official White House statements have called for the right size, modernized AUMF. It would send a powerful signal to the citizens of this country, citizens of our allies, and to our enemies. But it was on January 23rd that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dempsey, said, and I'm going to quote General Dempsey's entire quote, because I think he is the #1 guy. He is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the one who should be the best qualified to make these decisions. He said, quote, "I think in the crafting of the AUMF, all options should be on the table, and then we can debate whether we want to use them or not. But the authorization should be there. In particular, it shouldn't constrain activities geographically, because ISIL knows no boundaries and doesn't recognize any boundaries. In fact, it's their intention to erase all boundaries to their benefit." Now, still quoting, "Constraints on time or sunset clause, I just don't think it's necessary. I think the nation should speak of its intent to confront this radical, ideological, barbaric group and leave the option until we can deal with it." Now, that's all a quote from General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and I think we need to listen to him. I don't think the immediate need for an AUMF could be put more clearly or succinctly than General Dempsey's words, and it's my hope that he was intimately involved in the drafting of what we're going to see. It's my understanding that we're going to see this tomorrow. Again, Madam President, I, along with many colleagues, including my good friend from Utah, look forward to reading President Obama's AUMF. We got to get rid of this monster. And with that, I would yield to my good friend from Utah.